Amber Alert Podcast.
Welcome, guys. Amber Alert Podcast, episode 14. I am your host, Amber Starkey. It is a great day to be alive. I am working with a new camera today. So, I'm looking very pasty. I guess there are settings that I need to adjust that I have not adjusted. And, it needs a little bit of work. In fact, that's why I'm 10 minutes late, is because I was trying to adjust it and then it kicked me out of my streaming platform, so I couldn't access the camera or the mic, and had some issues, so I had to restart my computer a couple times. So we're a little bit behind, but that's okay. We're gonna get started. So what's on the agenda today? Excuse me, let me get this adjusted a little bit, because I feel like that might be a little bit better. We are going to talk, obviously, some news and stuff that's going on there. It's been pretty much all good news lately, which is a huge change from what things were like for the last 4 years. So good news, and then we'll talk some about crop circles. It's another topic I find very interesting. And we'll talk about weather modification and what's going on with that. And then we'll get to we'll talk about the Lord. We'll talk about Jesus and some very interesting things when it comes to our bodies. And some just one of the things really that gives evidence to who God is, that he is in fact the author of creation of our bodies. Very interesting stuff. So we'll get to it. Man, I feel like I can barely hear myself. I hope the sound isn't weird anywhere. Let me make sure I'm good on Instagram. Yeah. Just turn up sensitivity a little bit. All right. Let's get going with some news. All right, breaking. President Trump announced plans to either terminate nearly 88,000 IRS agents or reassign them to Border Patrol duties. I wonder if, I feel like they would just rather be fired than actually help us secure our country and secure our border. I feel like they'd rather just leave, which says something about them. All right, breaking. Google Maps forced to bow to Trump's will updates to show Gulf of America and Mount McKinley. Let's go. Even Google getting on board now. I haven't actually gotten onto Google Maps to look and see for myself, but I trust that if it's not there already, at least it's coming, which is cool. Which is funny because Trump is literally just the ultimate troll. He's just like out trolling half the country and the rest of the world, and it can't be stopped. It's hilarious. All right, there's a bright light over the USA and indeed the entire world ever since the presidential election of 2024. Now, that is so true, and I want to stop for a minute. There is a video. So normally when I play videos in this podcast, I just pull them up from within the podcast, which has been working fine. However, there is a different way that I can patch in videos. I'm going to try that today for some of them. I think it's going to work. I'm hoping, because I'm going to pull something up from YouTube. So I'm hoping it's not going to put an ad in there or whatever, but let's give it a try, because there is part of a video that I want you guys to see that has everything to do with what we just read. Trump was saying there's a bright light over the US and the entire world. I agree. And this actually will give evidence to that. So let me see if it will let me do it, because I don't want to do that. What was the other way I did things? I did this once as like a way of practicing, and it did work. I know I'm like drawing a blank how I did it, because I want to be able to pull in Let me see if it's this. Nope. Daggone it. Because this would have worked so well. Give me 1 second. Sorry for the like dead air. I want to be able to do this because some of the videos, like I can't, it's very hard for me to get them. Oh, I'm dumb. It's right in front of my face. Jeez. Okay. So let me do this. Here we go. Ha ha. Okay. There we go. All right. So I want you guys to watch this because okay. So this guy, well, the guy that's in the vest is from South Africa. He's an American now. The other guy that he's talking to and his wife, I don't know what country they said they're from. And I don't have a good ear for accents. Someone that does would maybe be able to tell me. It sounds kind of Nigerian to me, but again, I could be wrong. But listen to what he has to say. Sorry, let's play it.
Had to pray for America that you get it right, because if you don't get it right, the whole world is going to go into.
So you like
I hope
Trump?
you guys can hear.
It's not about liking Trump. It's about what God is doing in this hour.
No, we understand that, but
And he's the only one.
No. We're going to do that. How can you say congratulations for a victory? What are you talking about?
Because it's our victory. It's a world victory. Trump is not just for America. God raised him for the world. Because I believe that Jesus is coming very soon. And these people, you people call them from, they're people from is it the left, or what do you call them? They drag the whole world to the left. Everything is been darkness, and we have felt it in Africa. And
so,
culturally, we only know about 2 genders, but Americans had so many genders, we got confused. And they said they got our leaders, most of our presidents, they were being forced that to be able to get for them to give you aid, you have to legalize same-sex marriage. And you remember the president.
Okay, well, I'm going to stop it from there, but just keep in mind that what he said, whatever country he's from, he said that, it wasn't just a win for America when Trump got elected. It was a win for the entire world. And in another part of that video, he said, when America coughs, the rest of the world goes into a coma. And it's funny he said that because someone from New Zealand said essentially the exact same thing to me over the summer when I met this person. He said, when America sneezes, the rest of the world catches a cold, meaning, whatever goes on in America is felt around the world. So that's why when you have the weak leadership that we had under Biden, and you have all of the internal problems, the unsecure border, and the threat of terrorism, and the even bigger threat of communism, the rest of the world is like bracing themselves, at least for the people that understand what that means, because it is going to affect these other countries. So it doesn't just affect America here because we are such an influential country, like it or not. It's just the way it is. So that would be felt around the world if the Democrats got their way and actually implemented communism into the US. That is a big problem for the rest of the world. So I just thought it was interesting to hear it from him, because he's like, and he went on to say that, again, I don't know what country he's from, but he said Jill Biden had visited his country, and she was trying to get them to basically follow the US and recognize the million different genders that America was saying there are. And his country didn't like it. So then whenever Trump got elected, he was like, I waited to see if Trump would take that away, and sure enough, Trump did. So he's like, yeah, I'm obviously on board with you guys having Trump. So there you go. The rest of the country, or I'm sorry, not the rest of the country, the rest of the world. And people, it's funny too, because people accused Trump of starting a world war, right? Like in his first term, oh no, it's going to be World War III, when the opposite happened. Like, he was like the only president in I don't know how many years, over 30, I think, that there were no armed conflicts that started under his term. Or under his presidency. And then, you know, the main players that we thought would be involved if there would be a World War III was Russia. Everything was smooth with Russia with Trump there. Iran, he went over there, met with what's his face, I think he's dead now in that chopper crash, made peace with that guy, made peace with that little idiot in North Korea. So it's like he did the opposite of everything they were accusing him of doing. Because why? Because he is a little bit of a psycho, to the extent that it forces people to respect him, and they see the show of strength that he is, because it's like, all you got to do is like talk the wrong way to him, and he's like, I'll nuke your country. Like, you'll just be, or I'll turn it into a parking lot. So it's like people are like, well, I'm probably not going to touch America while he's in office because I don't want my country blown up. So say what you want about him. That type of thing works when it comes to foreign relations. It does. Okay, let's move on. Lindsey Graham says Trump needs to be investigated for pulling John Bolton's security. Okay, first of all, Lindsey Graham looks like a lesbian that is losing the fight against alcoholism. And I don't think anyone cares what he has to say. I don't even know what he's doing in politics anymore. But I feel like rehab would be a better place for him. Okay. Massive breaking. President Trump has just signed an executive order banning child sterilization and mutilation. The days of so-called gender-affirming care for children are over. We did it. We freaking did it. Protecting children from chemical and surgical mutilations. Yeah, this is awesome. And I don't know what horrible, awful, sick person would not be happy about this, but I literally was reading comments. This is what I think keeps me going, is reading comments on the internet, because they infuriate me. Whatever the topic, I see idiots in the comments. And so there's never a shortage of things to talk about, because even the things that you would think would be common sense, like, hey, you shouldn't, be castrating a 6-year-old or, mutilating their bodies and doing irreversible damage when they're a child. You would think everyone would, agree that's common sense, but no, you literally have people that are upset about this because they want kids to be mutilated. And it's funny too, the term gender affirming care is just contradictory to that entire, movement of the goods that you're born with do not determine your gender. Okay, so that's what they tell us. Whatever you're born with doesn't determine your gender. So then we're going to give you gender affirming care. To affirm something is to basically like confirm it, right? So we're going to give you gender affirming care, which will involve trying to change the parts that you have. So you just told us the parts you have don't determine your gender, and now you're going to give people gender affirming care to try to determine their gender with parts. How does that make sense? That's the opposite of what you just wanted us to believe, and then you turn around and try to make a fake one with surgery. So that the whole thing is just stupid. No one's thought it through. But those people don't think, so I'm not surprised. Move on. All right. White House strategist Stephen Miller confirms Trump's DOJ, DHS already investigating top NGOs and Biden admin for illegal human trafficking and sex slavery. Let's go. I guarantee there is a bunch of dirt to find. So that again, this is what makes me happy. I don't think Trump would have done a lot of this stuff. He didn't do a lot of this stuff in his first term. He came in, again, he doesn't seem like a naive person, but I think for the job that he took on, he was naive in his first term. Now that he's aware of stuff, now that he's angry, now that he's had enough, yeah, it's looking different already, and I'm here for it. All right, here he is with one of his mean tweets. I guess this one isn't mean. The United States military just entered the great state of California and under emergency powers turned on the water flowing abundantly from the Pacific Northwest and beyond. The days of putting a fake environmental argument over the people are over. Enjoy the water, California. It's amazing how the military had to go in and do that. Why was the water supply shut off in the first place unless you wanted the fire to burn out of control and put people out of their homes and destroy them? Which we talked about when we talked about the smart cities and watched some videos where you had multiple fires going on at the same time, and you can see the origin point of those fires. So, tell me there's nothing to see there, but I think there is. Let's move on. All right. I was just informed that two repatriate. I don't know how to say that word. I don't know what that word is. So whatever, these flights from the United States with a large number of illegal criminals were not allowed to land in Colombia. This order was given by Colombia's socialist president, Gustavo Petro, who is already very unpopular amongst his people. Petro's denial of these flights has jeopardized the national security and public safety of the United States. So I have directed my administration to immediately take the following urgent and decisive retaliatory measures. Emergency 25% tariffs on all goods coming into the United States in 1 week. The 25% tariffs will be raised to 50%. A travel ban and immediate visa revocations on the Colombian government officials and all allies and supporters. Visa sanctions on all party members, family members, and supporters of the Colombian government. And enhanced customs and border protection inspections of all Colombian nationals and cargo on national security grounds. Whatever that treasury is, banking and financial sanctions to be fully imposed. These measures are just the beginning. We will not allow the Colombian government to violate its legal obligations with regard to the acceptance and return of the criminals they forced into the United States. Again, Trump is not only a troll, but he is like the level of petty I aspire to be at. However, since he did that, literally within like 30 minutes, Colombia was like, "Oh, okay, we'll take them. We'll accept the flights. We'll take all our people back." So all it took was for him to say, "Oh, all right, if you won't take them back, X, Y, and Z is going to happen effective now, and it's only going to get worse." And so then, literally within 30 minutes, they were like, "All right, we'll take them back." So that, again, it's a show of strength, and then suddenly people are willing to play ball. They are used to having no pushback. They're like, "I'm going to put my foot down and you're going to like it or lump it." And then Trump's like, "Oh yeah, I will make life miserable for you because you're taking these people back, or there will be hell to pay." And then they're like, "Oh, okay, he's serious. All right, we'll take them back. We'll play ball," which Mexico's going to find out the hard way too if that lady is still doing what she's doing, where she's acting like she's not going to take people back. Bro, you're taking them back. All right. I told you guys Stephen A. Smith was like waking up. He said he feels a fool for voting for Kamala Harris. I told you guys. Not only did he say, because remember we watched a couple interviews with him, or a couple things he said where he's like, "I didn't vote for Trump, but I'm not mad he won. And here's why the Democrats," he was so angry one day, which, I mean, he's kind of always angry, but you know how he gets. And he's like, "I'm so sick of the Democrats. I keep finding out more and more stuff about them that's super sketchy. I find out they lied about this, and then I find out they lied about that. And I don't like this because this is the party I've supported forever." So he is waking up, which is all anybody asks for, is to just have common sense, the ability to recognize patterns, and then I guess the humility to change your position when you find out you need to change your position, instead of just dying in your pride and refusing to get on the right side of things. So my respect for Stephen A. Smith, man, it is just growing. Let's move on. Holy moly, he wasn't joking. Trump just called for Congress to abolish the income tax. This is huge. Okay, you are a retard if you don't want this, because I've seen people, "Oh no, that's such a bad idea." No, you're just an idiot, okay? You should be on board with this. Look at this graph here. So if Trump abolishes the federal income tax, here's what you'd save. If you make $63K a year, you'd save $14,000. $100K a year, you'd save $22,000. That's every single year. What could you do with an extra $14K or $22K, right? That's literally like, for people that have wanted to own a home and can't because of the way everything is, that right there would get the ball rolling to allow you to put a down payment on a home. Or in some cases, that's like almost a new car. If you're saving $22,000 a year, there are some new cars you could probably get for that price. Maybe like some kind of Kia or something, but or at least that's a huge chunk out of even a newer, nice used vehicle. So that's life-changing for a lot of people. Or throw that into your debt. People that have student loans, you've got $100K in debt. In 1 year, you could pay off almost a quarter of it potentially, or at least some of it. That's again, if you don't want that, you're just stupid. The government shouldn't be taking your money in the first place. So that's not everything Trump wants to do. He's also vowed to remove tax on Social Security, mass deportations of illegals that are costing taxpayers $150 billion a year. Remove tax on tips and overtime, reduce $2.3 trillion of wasteful government spending with Elon. This will make Americans richer and you must take advantage of it. Yeah. So it would be one thing if our tax-paying dollars actually just went to, like, let's say we need a road. Okay, well, I benefit from driving on the road. So if I pay some tax to go toward that, okay, or, something else, like even like a school, we need, the school doesn't have the proper HVAC system it needs, and we need, to build something new. Okay, tax-paying dollars go to make sure kids are comfortable at school. All right, fine. But the problem is the government isn't responsible or trustworthy. You have billions of dollars or even trillions in this, what we just read, that are going to completely retarded programs that nobody wants. There's something I'm going to read when I get to it. Ridiculous. The amount of money they were going to put into something to pay for something in another country, to send something there, that you would have to be an idiot to want, to have your hand in paying for that. Ridiculous. There is no accountability. And that's why, with this Doge, that they put together to track the government spending and get rid of waste is a big deal, because you'll find, why am I paying, why are my tax paying dollars, why are they paying for this? Why are they going to that? Because there's been no accountability, mismanagement of everything, blatant, not even just mismanagement, but intentional waste. And who is it hurting? The everyday citizens, especially the middle class. So let's move on. All right. China has agreed to take back its citizens living illegally in the United States after President Trump threatened to impose tariffs and sanctions on countries that refuse to accept deportees. So they're in the same boat as Colombia. You are taking your people back or else. All right. Breaking. Mexican cartels are reportedly prepared to target U.S. planes returning illegal immigrants. Is it time for the U.S. military to take on the cartels? Yes. Why have we not been doing drone strikes? The cartels have been out of control for such a long time. I understand you can't just drop a nuke, because that would kill a bunch of people you don't want to kill. But yeah, why are you taking crap from them anymore? They think they can do whatever they want. They killed their own cops in their country and everything. They think they can fire at anybody. They think they can cut the skin off someone's face and freak people out. Literally just bomb them. Just that is the show of force that's probably needed to get these people in check. You're not gonna do this anymore. If you even think you're gonna fire at a plane, I am literally going to decimate everywhere where we obviously know where you guys are. Every single one of you is gonna die. We're dropping bombs. That's what we need to do, because it's gone on for way too long, and apparently they think that they're gonna do more. So I wouldn't put up with that for a second. Even the threat of them saying that, I'd be like, all right, drone strikes. You guys are done. All right. Watch. 75,000 missing migrant children found during President Trump's southern border crackdown. Will Biden's Mayorkas finally face justice? So I didn't watch that video, but that is at least a decent chunk of kids that went missing at the border. So thank God for that. It's amazing what happens when you actually try, instead of facilitating and creating the problem intentionally. When you actually try to fix it, it's amazing what you can do. All right, breaking. House Republican Anna Luna files a bill to put President Trump on Mount Rushmore. A growing number of conservatives are pushing to add Trump. Luna, I'm actually filing the legislation now as we speak. Let's go. I love her. Anna Paulina Luna is a G. She's been awesome. And I agree. Put him on Mount Rushmore, because he's done more in a week, in less than 2 weeks, than Biden did in 4 years. At least more good things than Biden's ever done in his entire career. So Trump is genuinely a president for the people. He is. All right. If we didn't elect Senator Dave McCormick, this is from Scott Pressler, who just about single-handedly secured Pennsylvania for Trump in the election. So if we didn't elect him in Pennsylvania, Hegseth wouldn't have been confirmed tonight. Thank you to every single Pennsylvania voter that defeated Democrat Bob Casey. Thank you, dear Pennsylvania. Thank you, Scott Pressler. You have no idea. Actually, he probably does know the impact he had, but Pennsylvania just turned out to be an extremely, extremely important state in the election, and even now after the election. And Scott Presler really did. I don't know that I could point to another single individual that is more responsible for how Pennsylvania turned out than Scott Presler. Like that, I mean, he deserves all the creds for real. All right, the FBI has launched a large-scale nuclear incident exercise in New York and rising fears of World War III. The operation involves military aircraft and personnel simulating radiological attack scenarios to ensure readiness for a potential nuclear crisis in the United States. The FBI has urged the public not to be alarmed by the heightened presence of military forces and aircraft during the exercise. I wouldn't be concerned at all. If you're no, that wouldn't concern me. That like now that we have a commander in chief that we can actually trust, that wouldn't concern me. I'd be like, yeah, just make sure you're ready. Good. That practice is fine. Anyway. All right. Colombia has agreed to accept deported migrants just minutes after Trump ordered tariffs. We already talked about that. Border czar Tom Homan declares war on terrorist cartels following Rio Grande fire involving Border Patrol agents. Good. That's what I just said. Drone strike them and kill them since they won't stop. All right. Federal agents are now conducting deportation raids in New York City as part of President Trump's crackdown on illegal immigration. What a time to be alive. New York of all places. Let's go. Kenya wants to exit the World Health Organization. We cannot afford to trust the World Health Organization anymore. Look at Kenya. Let's go. Oh, you see who posted that? Robert Malone, Dr. Robert Malone. So it's funny that he's back on X now because he was one of the people that got censored and canceled and kicked off of everything when the poke was being pushed out, because he's like, Dr. Malone is like essentially the inventor of mRNA for vaccines. And he was saying, do not get the boosters. And so they canceled him. They kicked him off of social media. And it's like, if he, the pioneer of that whole thing, is saying don't take it, then they know people are going to listen to him. So they had to just shut him up. So I respect him a lot because he went completely against the industry that he's part of, because he's like, yeah, that's not right. That whole thing is sus. Don't take it. Okay. Here's a mean, petty tweet. I love Trump. Wow, really good news. Jim Acosta, one of the worst and most dishonest reporters in journalistic history, a major sleazebag, has been relegated by CNN fake news to the midnight hour Death Valley because of extraordinarily bad ratings and no talent. Word is that he wants to quit, and that would be even better. Jim is a major loser who will fail no matter where he ends up. Good luck, Jim. That looks like a parody account tweet. You know how people will make fake tweets? That's what that looks like, except it's real. That's how petty he is. See, he's just free entertainment. This is why everyone missed him so much in the, after he got kicked off of Twitter, especially before Elon Musk bought it and restored his account, because people lived for his tweets, like it or not. People were like, he tweets too much. Yeah, but it's funny. It's entertainment. So unless you're getting offended by it, you kind of look forward to it. Let's move on. RFK Jr., the first thing I've done every morning for the past 20 years is get on my knees and pray to God that he would put me in a position to end the chronic disease epidemic and to help America's children. This is exactly the man we need at HHS. Yes, because, and this is what the liberals won't be honest about. They're like, RFK wants to end vaccines and he wants to basically get rid of medicine. No, he literally never said that. He never said we're going to get rid of all medicine and we won't have any shots for anything anymore. He has never said that. All he wants to do is investigate the ones that are hurting and killing people and get rid of them, and then hold Big Pharma accountable and make them stop poisoning people. That's all he's trying to do. And then clean up our food supply, because the majority of people that end up with a chronic illness, it's food related. It's related to their diet and a lack of exercise for that matter. But you know, if you clean up what we're eating and you definitely clean up what's being injected into your body, there goes the majority of health problems that people have. So of course, big pharma doesn't want that because they make money off of selling you a, you know, a treatment. They don't cure anything. They just treat symptoms while giving you 45 other symptoms and potentially ending your life. So that's all he wants to do is accountability and actually make people healthy again. And of course, liberals hate that because they hate everybody, including themselves. All right. Trende Aragua, ringleader behind Aurora, Colorado apartment building invasion, arrested in New York City by ICE. Let's go get him out. Maybe make an example of him before you get rid of him, though. All right, happening now, anti-deportation protest in Oklahoma with protesters waving foreign flags. This would be a great spot for ICE to visit. Yeah, if you've already got a bunch of people gathered in one place, that's probably a good place to start. And you're going to round up a bunch of people at once. And then I don't know why anyone is protesting. Maybe just take them out with rubber bullets and put them to sleep for a while. All right. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt reveals drones flying over New Jersey were authorized by Biden admin for research and various other purposes. So I think I might have the video of her talking about that. Let me see if this is the one.
Before I turn to questions, I do have news directly from the President of the United States that was just shared with me in the Oval Office. From President Trump directly, an update on the New Jersey drones. After research and study, the drones that were flying over New Jersey in large numbers were authorized to be flown by the FAA for research and various other reasons. Many of these drones were also hobbyists, recreational, and private individuals that enjoy flying drones. In time, it got worse due to curiosity. This was not the enemy. A statement from the President of the United States to start this briefing with some news.
Okay, so they're saying it wasn't Iran, you know, it wasn't like China or whatever else was accused of, you know, putting the drones out there, whatever. So, you know, someone knew what was going on. Why, you know, why not just say that? If it's for research or something, hey, why not tell the public, hey, you're going to see some drones in the sky over the city where you live. Don't worry, we're just doing research. It's us. Why not come out and say that? Why do something shady? And maybe it's to create fear because people didn't know what was going on. And when people are afraid, they comply. So maybe just like with COVID. So maybe that was it. But again, stupid thing to do. All right. The cartels just shot at us. They shot at federal agents on the border, send in missiles now. Yeah. Like I've been saying, just literally take them out. Take them out. All right. Ooh, this big chick. So Lyft hit with a multi-million-dollar lawsuit over a driver telling this morbidly obese rapper his car isn't big enough for her. Her lawyers say it's segregation. It's not. He's concerned about you breaking the wheels off of his car. Look, I wanted a full body shot. That is a lot of person. I'm not gonna like watch a video, but you know, all of this push with obesity and basically saying if you say someone's fat, that's like the equivalent of calling someone the N-word. No, it isn't. No, it's not. So I wouldn't walk up to someone and call them fat to their face or something like that. But the problem is that they've glorified being unhealthy. And, you know, even like very thin people can be unhealthy too, depending on what they're eating. But the point is that you should exercise regularly. You should eat decent. You should take care of your body. And if you are as big as that lady is, and you literally can't ride in someone's car because of it. And I don't think the guy was just being a hater. I think he was genuinely concerned about the wheel, you know, the axles or whatever. So it's like, you know, is the problem Lyft or even that car? No, just the problem. If you're the outlier, you don't make, this is again where, you know, the concept of majority rule comes in. If you can't fit in something that's pretty standard for most everybody, then the problem is with you, not everybody else that needs to change to cater to you. It's the same thing with rides, like at amusement parks. Like my husband said, when he got like massively big, he said he couldn't fit in the whatever they put over you to strap you in, basically, on rides. He said like it just couldn't fit. It wasn't fun anymore. So is he supposed to demand they make those bigger, or is he just like, I can't like go on that ride? You just can't go on the ride. It's not the end of the world, It's like the people with the airplane seats, I can't fit in this, so you need to make bigger seats. No, you just need to be a smaller person because everyone else is having no problems fitting. Yeah, and I understand aircraft, like this, the seating is tight. I get that, but at the same time, buy 2 seats or make yourself fit. Like whatever. The fact that it's a lawsuit's ridiculous. All right. I saw this and just thought it was interesting. Birth control is quietly the most dangerous psychoactive substance, scrambling the brain of young women, changing who they're attracted to, wrecking their mood, nuking hormones, doled out like candy, and called freedom for women's health. We will look back on this as insanity. Yeah. I'll be honest, I don't know that much about birth control, but I've heard enough to, I don't know. Unless you absolutely have to use it for some reason, I wouldn't. If the goal is to not create a child, there are other things you can do to avoid that. But I wouldn't put that in my body because it does have certain effects, and I don't think it's going to be good down the road for you. Probably not even good right now. So I wouldn't touch this stuff, but it's just me. All right. To all you crying liberals, Trump is doing exactly what he campaigned on. While you were whining, we were voting. That's true. He's been very good on his campaign promises so far. I am a big fan. All right. Impeachment efforts against President Trump are underway over his role in January 6th, led by the nonpartisan group Free Speech for People. I knew it was only a matter of time before they introduced some kind of attempt at impeachment. I knew it. Like they tried that multiple times and nothing stuck because there is nothing. I don't even know why January 6th would be the thing that they would try when enough people understand what a scam that whole thing was. And in fact, if they continue to go after everybody like Liz Cheney and all the others, just more truth is going to come out and show everybody who was really behind that and what that was actually about. Not going to go well for them. So that would be the last thing that I would be using to try to impeach him. That is a stupid thing. Moving on. See, this is what I was talking about. The unchecked, ridiculous spending of taxpaying dollars. Carolyn Levitt exposed that $50 million in U.S. taxpayer money almost went to fund condoms in Gaza before Doge cut it. Do you see what I'm talking about? Why why you should want to get rid of the federal income tax? Not only do you save more of your own money, get to keep more of your own money, but then you don't have your hard-earned money going to stupid things like that. Who in the world would be supportive of that? That is so dumb. It's almost like they look for ways to waste money. Like, man, we can only build so many roads or fix them, and we don't even want to do that because that actually like helps people. So what things can we come up with that will just waste taxpayers' money? So, we can just continue to take more from them because there's never enough. Like, why don't we send condoms to Gaza? What are you idiots doing? Oh, so before I read that, let's watch this video. You guys probably heard about this. I believe it happened last night or yesterday. Watch. This is awful. I don't know why there's no sound. Look at that. This airplane collided with a chopper. I don't know how that happened. And I don't know what the update is either as far as if people are okay or not. I don't know. But that's terrible. I hope people are okay. I think it happened over water, but that doesn't mean that people had time to get their parachute on and jump or anything. I don't know. Here's what Trump said. The airplane was on a perfect and routine line of approach to the airport. The helicopter was going straight at the airplane for an extended period of time. It is a clear night. The lights on the plane were blazing. Why didn't the helicopter go up or down or turn? Why didn't the control tower tell the helicopter what to do instead of asking if they saw the plane? This is a bad situation that looks like it should have been prevented. Not good. So that kind of makes you think that it was intentional, which is a terrible thing. But again, once you get past cognitive dissonance, which happened to me in 2020, you are not surprised about anything that would be done intentionally. You would be like, that's horrible. Why would you kill innocent people or whatnot? And yet, they do, and they don't care. They have some kind of evil agenda, and they will see it past no matter what. And so it doesn't, if this was intentional and they didn't care to, or maybe it wasn't even, we don't care if we kill innocent people. Maybe there was someone on board they intentionally wanted to kill, and they don't care about the rest of the people that are just a victim to it, as long as they get the one they wanted. So I'm sure we're going to find out more about it as time goes on. But like what he just said, you had plenty of time to not hit them, and you did. So something about that does not add up. All right. Pittsburgh mayor declares he will not cooperate with ICE on raids. People feel scared. Yeah, you're gonna play ball. I honestly expect better from Pittsburgh, but I don't know why I expect better for Pittsburgh. Maybe because I've met a lot of people, because I live not far. I've met a lot of people from there, and there are a lot of really decent people there. But I mean, that doesn't mean the mayor is going to be decent. So that's only going to last so long. You're going to have to play ball one way or another, I promise. All right. Trump administration to offer all 2 million federal workers a chance to take a deferred resignation with a severance package of 8 months of pay and benefits. 5 to 10% of the workforce is estimated to quit, which could lead to around $100 billion in savings. See, cleaning up the wasteful spending that our government has been doing because of, how many of those jobs are just useless? How many people have been on payroll that don't do anything? And again, I am not anti working from home. I'm actually pro working from home, but that's assuming that you actually are doing a job that you're being paid to do. If you're just sitting around and somehow getting paid and wasting taxpayer dollars, then no, I would cut that person. So we'll see. I bet a lot of them will quit. I guarantee it. Okay. Before I do this, I wanted to watch we watched the one video of the press secretary. I love her. She's off to a great start, and I love what she said to this, how she responded to this question. So let's watch this real quick.
Immigration. Of the 3,500 arrests ICE has made so far since President Trump came back into office, can you just tell us the numbers? How many have a criminal record versus those who are just in the country illegally?
All of them, because they illegally broke our nation's laws, and therefore they are criminals as far as this administration goes. I know the last administration didn't see it that way, so it's a big culture shift in our nation to view someone who breaks our immigration laws as a criminal, but that's exactly what they are.
You may have to point at the worst first. They all have a criminal record?
And welcome to the briefing
If they
room.
broke our nation's laws, yes, they are criminal. Yes.
Thank you. On
See, that's what Kamala refused to say. She's like, they're not criminals. Actually, they're here illegally. So yes, that they are criminals. So that's refreshing to hear somebody say it. All right. Now I'm going to transition away from news and into the subject of crop circles. So here's the thing. Crop circles have been around for a while. I think whenever people kind of first saw them, they thought, I don't know what this is, or, they were like aliens made these. That was kind of what everybody thought. And then there were two guys, I think they may have been in Great Britain. I can't remember their names, but they admitted to making crop circles, and there is a way to do it with boards and string, and you can flatten them down and you can make shapes in the crops. However, it can be done if the stalks are short enough, I believe, and it obviously takes a lot of time. So depending on the size of them, as well as the height of the stalks and a couple other things, Sometimes it's doable and sometimes it's not. So some crop circles can be explained, and then some can't. So we're going to look at, why some of them can't be explained, kind of like what I was saying. So this is a guy that did a study on them. Let's just read what he has to say. So crop circles date back to 1945, dating back to 1945 are proof the phenomena is no modern hoax, a Tasmanian historian claims. The mystery of the increasingly intricate patterns was supposedly solved after several high-profile cases were revealed to be the work of artists. I got to get this closer. And mischief makers armed with barrels, planks of wood, and plenty of spare time. Credit for the hoaxes has been largely at the feet of pranksters Dave Chorley and Doug Bauer. Those are the two guys, I couldn't remember their names, who in 1991 announced they had been pulling the wool over people's eyes since 1978. So if that's true, they were at it for a while, and they were obviously responsible for at least some of the crop circles that people were seeing. Let's keep reading. So a crop circle is in Halezone, whatever that is, a place, I think. Greg Jeffries estimates this one to be about 10 meters in diameter. He points out the shadow on its southeast perimeter corresponds precisely to the shadows cast by the trees and hedges, that the quality of the image is high enough to show there are no tracks through the grain crop leading to or from the crop circle. But research by Greg Jeffries has revealed evidence of the strange circles in the English countryside at least 33 years before Chorley and Bauer took credit for the phenomenon, which until then had been attributed to UFOs and alien activity. Jeffries, who has a degree in archaeology, was prompted to research the matter after reading a report on crop circles in an 1880 edition of the science journal Nature. So that part of what we just read there, how they said there were no tracks leading to or from the crop circle. What does that sound familiar with? If you listen to the episode where we went into detail on cattle mutilations, is that in a lot of those cases, you have the dead cow or whatever it is there by itself. The other ones don't want to go near it. Scavengers don't want to go near it. They can't find evidence of how the blood was drained or how organs and things were removed with surgical precision. And they also can't find tracks around the carcass that would suggest someone either walked to or from it, or someone had a four-wheeler or a car or anything like that. They can't even find tracks of an animal. So same thing here. There's this crop circle out in the field, and you don't see evidence of anything having gone there and then away from it. So makes you kind of question, right? Let's keep reading. So the 59-year-old's research focuses on images from Google Earth's new 1945 overlay, which Jeffries studied for more than 300 hours. The overlay is a series of photos taken towards the end of World War II by the RAAF and comprises around 35% of the 1945 overlay of England presently available online. Jeffries points out the material evidence does not include acknowledged crop circle, what's that say? Hotspots around Wiltshire, so that's England. And a research paper emailed to Huffington Post UK, Jeffries writes, using aerial photographs primarily from the Google Earth 1945 overlay, and the number of crop circles appearing each summer has been relatively constant for at least the last 70 years, and that these crop circles cannot be explained by the hoax theory. This removal of the validity of the hoax's claims means that crop circles remain an unexplained natural phenomena deserving of serious investigation by academic institutions and other research organizations. Jeffries, who has previously used aerial photography to successfully locate shipwrecks, points out there have been reports of crop circles in the English countryside as far back as 300 years before the period of hoaxers began their work. In his research, Jeffries acknowledges the existence of flaws on the film caused by chemical or mechanical damage to the film, on which then in 1945 aerial snaps were taken, and has taken these into account. So not perfect footage, but again, he thought he was able to work around that. So in summary, he says, careful examination of the presently available images has yielded 64 shapes that were possible crop circles. Using a process of elimination to recognize flaws in the negatives, Jeffrey selected 13, which conformed strictly to his criteria. And we will look at some pictures in a minute. So this is his conclusion. The number of circular features that can be reasonably confirmed as crop circles that have been so far found in the survey of the currently available 1945 Google Earth overlay number is about 1 dozen. As this survey did not include more than 35% of England and excluded the known crop circle hotspots around Wiltshire, the findings are consistent with an annual occurrence of around 100 crop circles across the English countryside in 1945. Interesting, because that's literally right before Roswell, like just a couple years before Roswell happened. It's also where Stonehenge is, or it's very close. So this combined with a significant body of historical records describing the crop circles gives the what? The lie to the claims. Oh, yeah. Gives the lie to the claims made by various to be the originators and creators of all crop circles. This in turn begs the question, if not them, then who or what is responsible for the creation of crop circles? So he said there's a mounting body of evidence that suggests that a rare form of electromagnetic energy called an ionized plasma vortex, generally known as ball lightning, is involved. So he thinks there might be a scientific explanation. So plasma balls do weird things like passing through solid objects such as stone walls and glass windows and floating through the air against the wind. Exactly where this energy comes from and what causes it is not yet understood by science. Based on my studies, I suspect that the forces involved in the creation of crop circles represents a potentially extraordinary new field of science, a new frontier that could lead to profound discoveries and entirely new technologies. So, some kind of technology we don't know about it yet. Interesting. Where have we heard that before? Further, I believe that if the mainstream scientific community were not so timid and so conservative in their view of the universe, that they would not be sitting on their hands pretending this thing is not happening, but would be seriously investigating this unexplained phenomenon. We're expecting to hear more from Jeffries, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So that's what one guy has to say about it. So again, the pranksters are there. They're able to account for some of them. But certainly not all of them. And then crop circles go back to way before they were even around doing that. So let's look at some pictures of them. This one, I think most of these showed up in England, but of course they've been in other places as well. This one is probably the craziest one because of the, looks like a digital half of an alien's face. And I don't know what that circle is supposed to be, but that one is insane. You're telling me some people did that with planks and string? Nah, that thing's massive. That has a lot of detail, and there's no way. Let's look at this one. Look how big that thing is. You know how long that would take people? That would there's no way. That's absolutely insane. I don't know why my mic suddenly sounds different, so I hope everything's okay. But look at the size of that. That would take like years. Look at this one. Also massive. And look and I understand from an aerial view it looks more perfect than it would be on the ground. But that is some serious precision, right? And it's just huge. There's another one. Very, very strange. Also very precise. That one, same thing. You've got multiple designs going on. Looks very clean. Also very big. And that is insane because do you have any idea how hard that would be from the ground to create that from the ground? See what I'm saying? I've seen a couple crop circles that I'm like, oh yeah, someone could do that. On the ground. They're not that big. They're not that precise. They're not that perfect. All right, but some of these, it's like, there's no way. I have a couple videos we're going to watch. Where is that lady? Oh, I'm going to do what I did a second ago with, with putting, like, sharing my screen. So hopefully it's going to work for this one. Okay. So this lady is like a researcher of crop circles. And this is very short. I just want you guys to hear what she has to say. Here we go. Play it.
When I walk into a crop circle, for me, the hair stands up on my arms, goosebumps head to toe, tingles on the top of my head. I know I'm in a real crop circle because the electromagnetic energy is enhanced. What we can see in a human-made crop circle, it's so easy because every 3 feet, we see where they drop the board and the rope, and it's broken wheat every 3 feet. Very, very obvious. When we go into a real crop circle, they have biophysical changes, such as elongated nodes, blown nodes. And what's causing these nodes, and a node is like an elbow on a plant. With the wheat, the corn, the barley, it's a stalk, and every 5-6 inches, it grows a node like a support. When they're hit with crop circle frequency, they blow.
That's a really interesting video. I would like to ask how her haircut happened. But there's Reese, so someone who obviously researches the topic and has been in crop circles, said she can tell the difference as soon as she walks into them. There's the electromagnetic energy in a real one, and also you can see evidence where they've dropped the board if someone did in fact make it. She said they're plus the blown nodes. That doesn't happen when you can tell a person made it. So you already see some differences. I want us to look at this one. And again, this is from Ancient Aliens, which I'm not in the habit of watching their stuff because their bottom, what they believe is I don't have the same belief. So they'll present maybe the same evidence as the people I do follow, but again, they don't have a biblical perspective. So at the end of the day, they're like, this is aliens. This is some kind of extraterrestrial, which I don't believe, but we are all looking at the same phenomena. And then, these are the facts of what's going on. It's just, what is your interpretation of them? What do you think the bottom line is? And they, of course, are going to say aliens or some kind of extraterrestrials. I am not. But that doesn't mean that what they share is not interesting, because it certainly is. So sorry, now I'm like way too loud. Something like popped during this live stream. It was like quiet and now it's loud. Anyway, let's watch this one together. We have several videos on this topic we're going to watch. Let me pull it up. I hope everything is fine on your end, because it's looking okay on mine. Let's play.
England, May 19th, 1999. U.S. billionaire and philanthropist Lawrence Rockefeller.
Oh, a Rockefeller. How about that?
To assist with one of the largest studies of crop circles in history. The donation reflects the growing interest in the scientific study of how and why crop circles are created.
There was a scientist by the name of W.C. Levengood who did some very, very interesting work at various sites in southern England where crop circles appear in the 1990s. And he found some very strange things were going on. For instance, he found that some of the stalks were blowing out, which he felt
same thing that lady said,
only replicable by microwave radiation.
Okay, see? So she said something about electromagnetic energy, some kind of radiation, and they're saying the same thing. The swollen nodes, or they've been blown up basically, and it takes some kind of microwave radiation to make this happen. So no, who is on the ground with planks and string and that kind of radiation to be able to do that? It's not happening. Okay.
Levengood also found traces of other forms of radiation. And
hold on, sorry. So funny too, because radiation, when we talked about the cattle mutilations, is they've done this with a number of them where they've waved an instrument over the carcass and they've picked up radiation. So again, another similarity between these two things that no one can really quite explain. And then, where is this coming from? How and why?
Some of the corn would yield much better growth if it was actually taken from a crop circle formation.
Dr. Levengood, he noticed that inside the crop circle, the growth rate was 5 times as fast than what's going on outside of that crop circle.
True.
And when he investigated this, he actually came up with a technique called molecular impulse response.
From this study, he was able to do a bit of reverse engineering, and he created electrical pulse technology that is actually used to accelerate plant growth.
Scientists were astounded that the radiation research of crop circles led to new innovations in plant growth. Radiation was also believed to be the source of so-called ghost formations, where the stark impression of a crop circle appears long after the field has been cleared.
So that's crazy because you have, like they said, the growth inside the crop circles, wherever this whatever kind of energy has hit these plants, they grow a lot faster than everything outside of the crop circle. And then, like we just saw in that picture, and this one too, is even after the field's been fixed or whatever, grown over, you can still see it. So it's a change happened to that growth inside the crop circles, and it doesn't just go away.
There's photographic evidence of many examples where people have turned up after the farmer has harvested the crop, and they can still see elements of the design persisting.
Several people have come forward to claim that they actually witnessed mysterious lights, UFOs, UAPs, in the vicinity of a particular field. And then the next day, crop circles are actually found. So what is the relationship between these mysterious globes of light and ghost formations revealing this negative of the crop formation that had been there the previous year?
For ancient astronaut theorists, the appearance of aerial phenomena, along with the emergence of ghostly pre-existing patterns, supports the theory that some crop circles are not man-made, but instead could be an extraterrestrial creation. And they point to specific features in certain formations that may explain their purpose.
So there you go. Same thing that's oftentimes reported leading up to a cattle mutilation. The neighbors saw strange lights in the sky. The dog is going ballistic, and then boom, next day the farmer, the rancher, goes out, finds one of his cattle mutilated, calls the cops, they check it out, can't explain it, no evidence of an animal, that attacked it. So you see some similarities, obviously two different things happening, but it seems some of the circumstances surrounding the happening are similar, which is why I find this very interesting. I have a couple other videos. Let me see what this one is. Hold on. Hold on a second. I don't know if that one is actually going to work. Let me try, though. Let me try. I'm going to have to be quick because I feel like it's not going to. Let me see. Okay.
There's something very weird going on. I've read all the stuff. I've been out in the fields, and to me, it's an obvious answer. I mean, for most people, they say, well, who could have done this?
This is on Joe Rogan.
Because humans can't do it. It would take a team of surveyors 6 months to lay that out and bend individuals overnight.
Couldn't do it overnight.
You couldn't do it overnight, and it's done overnight in the dark.
People listening to this that are hardcore skeptics, you really should investigate crop circles further than this narrative that it was a bunch of guys with boards and strings. These are enormous fractals in some cases. That's the Mandelbrot set. One thing I'm aware of is that many of these are built by people. People have figured out a way to build many of these, but that doesn't account for the whole. Look at that. Represents pi. Oh my God.
Like
how complex that is.
You hear about crop circles.
So that's what I'm saying is some of them, yes, can be explained, but many of them cannot. And again, based on the size and how complex they are and the precision and everything, it would take forever So you can't, you can't say a couple guys went out and worked through the night and made it. That you wouldn't have a fraction of it done in that amount of time. I have a couple more real quick. So this one is L.A. Marzulli. And I like, oh, you know what? Give me 1 second. Okay. I like Marzulli again because he's a Christian. He has a biblical perspective. So he studies all of the stuff that Ancient Aliens studies, really. But the bottom line for him is, what do I find in the Bible? Can this be explained through the Bible? And that's why I like people like him. Rick Renner is the same way, because I find them much more trustworthy, and they're not telling me that aliens are real. They're saying there are angels and there are demons, and that's it, which I agree with. So
circle phenomenon. While it is true that many modern day crop circles can be hoaxes, we use one crop circle that was in a field in Ohio to illustrate that the circle could have been impossible to create. Coincidentally, this crop circle appeared on the day of our first Nephilim conference in Ohio.
Listen, I went to that.
In Chillicothe, Ohio. It was in a field of corn that stood 8 feet tall. You cannot make a crop circle in a field of corn that's 8 feet tall. That's the punchline of the entire film. And when you see it, it'll blow your mind, but I digress. This film will show the convergence between the builders of the ancient mounds throughout America and the burgeoning UFO phenomenon. I hope to have it out in late January, and of course, now it's out. In the meantime, the old guard is gone, and with them, the endless lies and cover-ups. Now there is an openness, and we are learning at least some of the truth. Don't forget my weekly UFO update.
So that's the main thing. That was just a little bit of an introduction to, he has a whole film on crop circles. And of course, what he was also talking about there with the old guard, that is General Ramey and the people from, dealing with the whole Roswell incident, where he has 2 films on Roswell, and he actually went to the debris field. You should go to his website and watch those films, because everyone knows Roswell, everyone's like, oh, the aliens, like the flying disc, the crash at Roswell. What does the government actually have? Well, go watch his films, because you're going to find way more facts about that situation than you ever knew, because of course there was a narrative. Literally, there was a telegram sent involving General Ramey, because they initially said there was a crashed disc, spelled 2 different ways. At one point they spelled it with a C, another point they spelled it with a K. Someone was able to find that from the telegram. And then the next day, and the newspaper already reported that there was a flying disc that crashed. And then the next day, the newspaper said, oh, never mind, false alarm, it was a weather balloon, after they spent the night coming up with the story that they're going to run with. So very interesting films that I would watch if I were you, to learn more about the whole Roswell incident. Now, the last one I have on crop circles, this is L.A. Marzulli with Gary Stearman. Gary Stearman is he's part of Prophecy Watchers. I believe he was a pilot, and he saw some UFOs for himself when he was in the air, and then that kind of set him on the path he's been on, where he's been researching this type of thing. And he's another Christian, of course, with a biblical perspective. So I like him a lot too. So let's listen to this. Oh, I'm not sharing. I'm sorry. What am I doing?
They bend the crop. The real crop circles, you can tell in a couple of ways. The crop, whether it's wheat or corn, it's not broken. The stalks are not broken. They're bent. And the nodes where each part of the plant are, usually they're expanded.
Same thing that
Many
lady.
people that have studied this believe that there's some sort of microwave energy over the field, which is creating this. Plus,
same thing Ancient Aliens
you
said.
mentioned the stock stompers, which is string and a board, and they would start, if you haven't seen videos of it, the guy's walking through the field, he's got holding the rope, it's around his neck, and he's holding the rope, and he's pulling it up and then stomping with his feet. So he's like going like this through the field and creating the pattern. We're not disputing that. We know that that's what happened. But there's evidence in the crop circles themselves, and the scientific community has looked at this. The fact that the nodes are blown open, you don't get that from just stomping on a field of wheat. Some high energy microwave-like energy wave was over the field, created it, and we see the evidence of it in the stalks themselves, which is mind-blowing. But you talk about the field of corn. In the real crop circles, the grain or whatever it is, specifically the one behind us, the corn, there's sections in those circles where the corn is laid like this. It's interwoven, one stalk upon another. So you're trying to tell me that at 2 o'clock in the morning, a couple of chuckleheads go out there and start bending the crop and weaving it? No. And then the crop isn't broken, it's bent. The nodes are expanded. They've also done studies with the seeds from the wheat or the rapeseed or whatever, and these seeds mature much, much faster than the normal seeds. So something is going on, and in my opinion, there's a supernatural component to it. And this is part of the whole UFO disclosure series, which, as you know, we've been doing, and it's an important part.
Now, this is kind of if you will, a fine art out there in the countryside. And by the way, some of the circles are not circles. Some are angular.
Yes.
Some have even featured a picture of an alien's head.
We looked at that.
And that alien's head happens to be next to a very large crop circle that seemed to be encoded, and a lot of computer experts have tried to decode it, and some think they have. In other words,
let me pause for a second. So what they're about to get into, ancient aliens did not get into this. And as far as I know, this is probably where they kind of part ways. So they're in agreement, right? We heard everything we listened to from different perspectives. But if you're a researcher of the whole crop circle phenomenon, then these are the facts that you come to. You have, first of all, the stalks can't be bent when they're a certain height. The nodes being blown up doesn't happen without some kind of energy. The size of them can't be done in the amount of time that they're getting done. So in some cases, it is just impossible that human beings did this. So everybody's in agreement on that, right? They've all seen the same stuff because they all have researched the same stuff. But again, when you listen to it from a Christian perspective, they have a little bit of, they'll go in another direction as far as trying to get to the bottom of what's going on. So that's what they're about to get into in this part of it.
Looking at a kind of an earthly message board, and somebody is coming in and writing their little messages and leaving them for some reason. And who are they talking to? What are they saying? What are they doing, LA? Because if we can't at least make a stab at that, we sort of have to ignore it and say, well, that's too much for me. I'm going to go in and make myself a peanut butter sandwich. This makes my head spin. Why are we even discussing this subject? Everybody ignores it. They say, oh, hey, Martha, there's a crop circle, another crop circle. And she says, oh, those things happen all the time. Come in and let's eat dinner. And they just ignore what to me is a phenomenal, shall we call it a warning? I don't know.
There was a movie a few years ago called Signs, and it talked about the crop circles, and it had a very nefarious agenda. And of course, the entities who were doing it were extraterrestrials, and they had nefarious plans for us. We're saying from a biblical view, a biblical worldview, biblical paradigm, that these entities that are doing it are not from some faraway star system. They are, in fact, interdimensional entities. In fact, the entire series that we've done is based on the biblical prophetic narrative, stating that they're not from Zeta Reticuli, they're interdimensional. They are the prince, these are the fingerprints of the prince of the power of the air, i.e. the dragon, i.e. Satan. These are signs. And what they do in a farmer's field. The farmer walks out there in the morning and he goes, oh my gosh, how did this happen? And you know, Gary, some of these fields are way out in the middle of nowhere.
Yes.
And the idea of a couple of guys with stalk stompers, you know, at 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the morning, making these intricate designs. And you talked about the circles are one thing, but then you get the angles. Then you get the alien face. And we show this. It happened in Crabwood. It's called the Crabwood glyph. And the late David Flynn deciphered that, as well as his brother Mark. They're twins, Mark and David Flynn. So I interviewed Mark, and some of that makes its way into the film. What's incredible about this, Mark Flynn's logo was an alien, a gray, holding a disc. This is way back when. And the crop circle that appears in the Crabwood circle is an alien head holding a disc. I mean, it's almost exactly alike. There is a message, and I'll tease you a little bit here with this. This is the work of the late David Flynn, which is absolutely extraordinary. When you begin to decipher the mathematics in the Crabwood glyph, there's a link between Crabwood and 1947 and the Roswell crash.
What?
It's embedded in the Crabwood glyph.
I did not know
and
that.
That is absolutely astounding. And that's the work of the late David Flynn. He was the one who went in and deciphered that. But of course, once again, it's his brother's company logo with the alien head holding that disc. And there it is in Crabwood, the UK.
Wow.
1,947 miles from Roswell, New Mexico. And we know that the alleged disc crashed in Roswell in 1947. So there's absolutely, the language of the dragon, in my opinion, is geometry, advanced mathematics. And that's what we see
That's why
embedded
math sucks.
in these circles.
In other words, in a way, this is a message from the dark side to humanity saying, we know what you're doing, we're watching you, and we're responding with little flags out here. Why would they want to do that? What's the motivation, and why has this accelerated?
It's this cat and mouse game that we see all throughout the UFO phenomenon, from Close Encounters of the First Kind to the 60, 70-year cover-up of the Roswell crash, to now on Tucker Carlson talking about, UFOs are real, they're burgeoning and not going away, with a steady stream of guests. The latest one, Nick Pope, telling us that, now they're the Pentagon once again revealing or releasing what once was classified information. So our government is telling us that this phenomenon is real. The cat and mouse game with the crop circles has created a group of followers who believe that these are, in fact, our space brothers. I know you and I will adamantly state these are not our space.
So that's literally like what we were saying with Ancient Aliens, how that's going to probably be the bottom line for them. These are some kind of extraterrestrials, and they're probably interested in connecting with humanity for some reason. So everything, there's nothing at all nefarious about this. This is their way of trying to communicate with us. Everything's fine. We need to be friends or whatever. Whereas coming from a biblical worldview, you're like, no. Definitely not something that's good. Definitely not something you want to communicate with.
Space brothers. And there's a signature here, which I call it convergence. We were actually thinking about calling the film Convergence. We didn't. But what we uncovered was the relationship between where the crop circles are placed, specifically in the UK, because they're by these ancient megalithic structures like Stonehenge, like Avebury, like Silbury Hill. And that is deliberate, because these megalithic sites are thousands and thousands of years old. And we'll get into this perhaps in a little bit, but the crop circle right behind us appeared in a field of corn in Chillicothe, Ohio, within a day or two of our first Nephilim Mounds conference.
By the way, that
2012.
is a megalithic site.
Oh, my bad. I thought the one he was talking about was the conference in Newark, which is the one I went to when he was there. But apparently this was Chillicothe, which is not the same part of Ohio. But both of them have mounds. So.
Right. I mean, if you go there and look at the earthwork, that's megalithic era. In other words, very possibly pre-flood. And what we're talking about here is an acknowledgement from the other side that this is an important place. And by the way, we're putting our mark on it, and it's still ours. It's, to me, it's almost like a claim of ownership.
I agree.
When you
It's
go
like
out,
a stamp.
a stamp and a seal from the dark side. And it's happening increasingly in this time period, in which we unabashedly refer to as the latter days. And
all right, so, well, I'm going to
signs
cut
are
this off
all
because that
around.
was the main thing I wanted you guys to hear, where he's talking about some of the things that you find inside a crop circle that cannot be done by a human and can't be explained either. I did a quick AI search on crop circles they haven't been able to explain, and this is like the rundown of it. So they would just say they're mysterious circular patterns found in crop fields, often with intricate designs where the exact cause of their formation remains unknown, with some people speculating that they could be created by extraterrestrial activity or unknown natural phenomena, despite the majority being attributed to human hoaxes. These unexplained circles are considered particularly intriguing due to their complex geometric patterns and sometimes unusual physical characteristics within the flattened crop areas, which some argue cannot be replicated by known human methods. Right, they can't. So they have geometric patterns. They're very precise and detailed. In fact, too precise to be created by simple human methods. They, some have been proven to be hoaxes. Some formations still lack a convincing explanation for their origin. Physical anomalies. Some reports claim unusual physical properties within crop circles, such as altered plant growth, which is what we heard in the videos. They grow much faster, changes in soil composition, or unusual electromagnetic readings. Again, what was in the videos. Due to the mysterious nature, crop circles are often linked to UFO sightings in popular culture. Yes, people see lights and stuff. So a large portion of crop circles have been confirmed as human-made hoaxes, with people creating them using simple tools to flatten crops. Most scientists attribute unexplained crop circles to misinterpretations of natural phenomena or human-made pranks. So, there's been an attempt to explain things away, but as you can see, there are similarities that anybody who researches the topic is picking up on the same things. And then they part ways when it comes to, what do I think caused this? Why do I think this happened? So again, a person with a biblical perspective, especially someone like L.A. Marzulli, who he researches pretty much all unexplained phenomena, whether it is the cattle mutilations, crop circles, the megalithic sites that we can't create today with the technology we have, all those different, the mounds, the giant human bones, all of that stuff. And you see kind of an underlying theme in all of it. And so that's why it all goes back to, for him and Gary Stearman as well, Genesis 3:15, the seed war, when God said, you will be at war, the seed of the woman will be at war with the seed of the dragon, right? And you'll bite his heel, but he'll crush her head, and all that stuff. And then you go to Genesis 6 and you see the fallen angels and the human women and the mingling there, and then the offspring of the Nephilim. And then you have the unexplained, if you read the book of Enoch and you see where they came down and they taught certain things to humans, and some of it was math and whatnot, and reading stars and constellations and all kind of things, making weapons, all kinds of stuff. If you read the book. So again, I think all of this can be explained if you simply stick to the biblical narrative, because you find there is the seed of the dragon that is at war with the seed of the woman. So humanity at war with the devil and whatever he thinks is his little demonic army that's going to prevent what's been prophesied from happening, because he knows what his end is. And so this is his effort to keep that from happening, and also just to be at war with us, because he hates us, because we took basically the position that he had before he got kicked out of heaven like an idiot. And we are God's pride and joy. We are what he loves. And so the devil hates that, obviously, and hates us. So he's at war with us. And so I think that's where the explanation comes from. I'm trying to think. I don't know where the closest crop circle would be to where I live. Maybe Chillicothe, because I do live in Ohio. I've never seen one. I don't know anyone that's had it done in their field. I do know someone who had a cattle mutilation in their field. But this is the thing too, when it's very easy for people to just be a naysayer about this stuff because you've heard a couple things about it, but you don't actually, you haven't actually looked into the details. So it's one thing to be like, I've seen Signs, I've seen that movie. That's a bunch of just Hollywood crap. That's like to just scare people or whatever. But it's a completely another thing when you listen to real researchers who are boots on the ground, and again they have very different perspectives, and yet they're drawing the same conclusions based on what they find. So it's like there's something real going on. Your interpretation, of course, is up to you, but to just deny the whole thing is going on, you're just blatantly being an idiot. It's like when never mind. I'm not even going to get into that. But yeah, you're just blatantly ignoring facts because you are uncomfortable with something you don't understand. It's like an ostrich. I'm freaking out, so I'm just going to bury my head in the sand. Okay, well, that doesn't make the danger or whatever is scaring you go away. It just means you're ignorant to it, and that doesn't help you. But again, I find this stuff very interesting. So enough with the crop circles. We're going to move on to something called Project Cirrus. So this is part of a bigger topic, which people would call weather modification. Now, this was a hot topic when the flood hit Asheville a number of months ago and caused the flooding, people out of their homes, because certain people were saying, interesting how that whole thing went down when there's a bunch of lithium there. And this company, Piedmont, wanted to buy all that land and people told them no. And then now all of a sudden, they're flooding in the mountains and people's homes are destroyed. FEMA is not only not helping, but they're also keeping other civilians from helping and, want people off of that land. So the question was, well, can the government actually modify weather? Can they create or direct a storm? And the answer is yes. They can, and it's not even something new. There is, of course, cloud seeding. But we have several videos that we're going to watch, and I'm going to read all of this stuff before we watch the videos. So, Project Cirrus. So this goes back to the 1960s, I believe. So the project, is that all I have on it? Hold on. I'm sorry. This is the first one. Okay. So this was a research project that involves seeding clouds with dry ice to study cloud formation and modification. It was the first cloud seeding experiment and the first attempt to modify a hurricane. The project ran from 1947 to 1952. So it's even older than I thought. And 1947 is also when Roswell happened, which is just interesting. So what was the goal? To understand the physical processes that cause clouds to form, grow, and dissipate, modify clouds and precipitation by introducing dry ice into the atmosphere. What did it accomplish? They successfully seeded a hurricane in 1947, demonstrated that dry ice could induce supercooled water to freeze. How did it work? The U.S. Air Force provided aircraft for the experiments. The General Electric Corporation, the U.S. Army Signal Corps, and the Office of Naval Research collaborated on the project. So again, you have the military. Airplanes dropped dry ice into clouds to see how it affected the clouds and precipitation. What were the consequences? It was canceled after the hurricane seeding caused the hurricane to change a direction and make landfall in Savannah, Georgia. The public blamed the seeding and lawsuits were threatened. So nothing new. Isn't that interesting? And again, this happened forever ago. Plus, you can find this easily. All you have to do is Google Project Cirrus and all this comes up. So look at this. This is several articles that happened, some of these within the last few years. So one nation's triggering rainstorms to cool down hot days with cloud seeding. It's so hot in Dubai that the government's artificially creating rainstorms. China plans rapid expansion of weather modification efforts. China's launching weather control machines across an area the size of Alaska. So those are just a few examples of the government deciding to determine the weather for different reasons. So here's weather modification. So it's a known fact and has been occurring since the 1940s, which we just saw. Some of the more known weather missions that consisted of cloud seeding include Operation Cirrus, 1947, Project Cumulus, 1950, Project Storm Fury, 1962, Operation Popeye, 1967. Today, with advanced technologies, the elite use ionospheric heaters like HARP, particle accelerators like CERN, and satellites that can alter the weather. These machines create anything from earthquakes, snowstorms, to rare sky phenomenons. The elite want to play God and wreak weather disasters on humanity, yet their machines will soon be destroyed. So I don't know who is saying they'll soon be destroyed, but all of that stuff does exist. So here's HARP, what that just mentioned. So it's High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program. So it's located in Alaska. It's one of the elite secret weapons for weather modification. With this machine, they're able to heat up the ionosphere, which in turn alters the weather to a point where they can create and control man-made weather disasters, earthquakes, tornadoes, hurricanes, etc., and strange sky anomalies. So that actually could explain some, sometimes when people notice something weird in the sky and they're like, oh, it's a UFO. Maybe not. It could, in fact, be something that is coming from something that they're doing in the sky with the technology that they have. Who knows? Operation Popeye. So this was during Vietnam. The U.S. military conducted over 2,500 weather modification missions lasting from 67 to 72 in an attempt to extend the Vietnamese rainy season and flood areas along the Ho Chi Minh Trail to disrupt the enemy supply route. This operation seeded clouds with silver and lead iodide via airplane, resulting in an extension of rain of up to 45 days in targeted areas. How in the world do you lose a war when you're literally modifying the weather to hurt your enemy? Okay. So all these mass wildfires that last for days and weeks could be easily put out much more sooner. The fact is they can modify the weather. They've had weather modification technologies for years. For example, during the Vietnam War, the U.S. military carried out hundreds of cloud seeding missions, which made it rain in targeted areas for days nonstop. So that was what we just read. It was Popeye. If they truly wanted to put out mass fires, they definitely have the power to do so. However, they would rather use their technologies for bad agendas than good. So again, that one example is just the LA fires. First of all, why is the water turned off and there's no water in places it should be? And then two, that's true. If you have the technology to create like precipitation, why wouldn't you help out America and put out fires? But again, doesn't seem to be what they're interested in. So I have a couple videos on this subject that we're going to watch.
Project Cirrus is the first official attempt to modify a hurricane. It was run by General Electric with the support of the U.S. military. The official theory was that by changing the temperature outside the eye wall of a hurricane, which they did by seeding the clouds with various compounds such as silver iodide, a decrease in strong winds will result. On October 13th, 1947, Project Cirrus targeted a hurricane heading out to sea. Approximately 180 pounds of dry ice was dropped into the clouds. The crew then reported a pronounced modification of the cloud deck, and the hurricane abruptly changed direction and made landfall near Savannah, Georgia. The public blamed the government. Irving Langmuir, who pioneered General Electric's atmospheric research department and admitted that the project was about learning how to weaponize the weather, also claimed the reversal of the hurricane had been caused by Project Cirrus. But the government denied it for 12 years.
Or government denial. They do something shady and then don't want you to know about it. So again, this is public knowledge. I don't have like secret information. This is literally one internet search away and you'll find all of the information I found and probably even more on Project Cirrus and Popeye and all that stuff that I just read to you. Here's one more video for us to watch on this.
Saying the government has created weather tampering techniques so that the, quote, New World Order will be able to starve millions of Americans. Worldwide. Millions of Americans, and to control the rest.
Yes, sir, and that's my belief. As bizarre as that sounds, if somebody had told me that that equipment even existed 10 years ago, I would have thought they were nuts, sir. And at this point in time, we have all the documents to prove it. And if you think that 85 tornadoes takes place in the middle of our growing area by simultaneous accident, I'm sorry. With the equipment that's already set up internationally, and as bizarre as that is, it is proven and documented. We will supply you with those documents. As bizarre as that is, I would say that weather wars, and this is quoting actually Senator Claiborne Pell himself, that they are the greatest weapon ever created in the world.
So I don't know, that guy's some kind of whistleblower, but that's the thing about it is it does sound crazy until you it sounds crazy until you wake up. Like whenever you come to terms with the fact that the government does hate us, there are global elites in positions of very, very, very high power that have a globalist agenda that's absolutely evil, and they don't care about anyone but themselves. They literally will destroy the earth to try to preserve it for themselves. This again goes back to Gates and the things that he's done with his little pokes, that have done terrible things to people in third world countries, and there's zero accountability for it. And it's again, you have to get past your cognitive dissonance, and then once you come to terms with the fact that people are that evil, nothing is too hard to believe. Nothing is too far out there. Now, I'm not saying be gullible and just believe anything you hear. No. That's why doing some research on the subject, there was a documentary I watched years ago, and the first time I watched it, I was very skeptical. I was like, yeah, I doubt it. So I watched it a second time, and I kept pausing it to look things up to see if that was actually true. And every single claim made in it, I was able to look it up and confirm, wow, that actually happened, and I didn't even know it. So it's kind of a process to wake up sometimes, but you have the internet at your fingertips, literally, and all the information is out there. And I know that it's awful. It's too bad that this is the world we live in, and this is the kind of the people that we're around, but it's true. Whoops, I'm hitting the wrong button here. So little bit of information for you if you were not aware of the weather modification that we're capable of. And if you think for a second they won't weaponize it to push through their agenda, think again, because they will. They've been doing it, and they're not going to stop now. So let's move on to something, a nicer subject. But before I get to that, I want to show you guys this just because I saw it and it made me smile. Me trying to study God's word to grow in Christ, my FBI agent reading along, now convicted of a sin. Which I got to wonder if that's happened yet for the ones that the government's actually spying on. I also found this interesting. So our brains are always looking for evidence to confirm what we've told it, confirmation bias, right? So if I keep thinking things never work out for me, my brain will focus on setbacks as proof of this and ignore positives that don't fit the story. This is called confirmation bias. But if I flip it and start telling myself things always work in my favor, my brain will start to notice the good things, reinforcing that positive belief. Our mindset really shapes our experience in the world. And what's funny about that is, so you can do science to figure out something like that, but there's actually a Bible verse that backs that up. Let me see if I can find it. I want to say it's one of the Psalms. I'm sorry, Proverbs. So it says, it's from Proverbs 23, for as he thinketh in his heart, so is he. So basically, what it's saying is, as you think, whatever you think about yourself is literally what you'll be. And that's why there is so much power in your thought life. Why also the Bible says, take every thought captive and make it obedient to Christ, because the devil will plant thoughts in your head to try to convince you that they're true. And he's a liar. That's all he does. But if you entertain those thoughts and you run with them, so you become that. And then there you are living a life you shouldn't have been living because you didn't take them captive and make them obedient to Christ. And then the worst thing is to let it come out of your mouth, because The power of life and death is in the tongue, right? So what you say has a huge impact on the way your life turns out and even the person that you're going to be. So I just found that interesting. And I'm going to get into this more in just a second. But what I find interesting about the Bible and everything is it says is the more you study science, the more we arrive at the fact that God already knew all of this. Not only did he know it, he created it, and it's taken us thousands of years to catch on to it. And it's like, if you would have just listened to him in the first place, even though it doesn't make sense to your carnal fleshly mind, if you would just listen in the first place and take him at his word and say, if you say so, okay, you wouldn't be struggling with, wow, I can't believe things work that way, or how could that happen? That doesn't seem, like it works. Yeah, it doesn't make sense to your flesh, which is why the Bible says that he uses the foolish things of this world to shame the wise, because there's a very simple, it takes kind of childlike faith, and it doesn't make you stupid, but it means that your human intellect is not in the way of you having faith. And that's the problem, is it seems like the more intellectual people get, usually the more difficult time they have with faith, because they want to overanalyze everything. And if it doesn't make sense on paper, well, then it can't be. Yeah, because your flesh profits nothing. Your flesh is at war with your spirit. So if you're relying on your head to make sense of something, your spirit can't operate. So that's why, again, you put your flesh to death, you elevate the things of the spirit, and then boom, that's where faith comes in. And that's what God can work with, because the Bible says without faith, it is impossible to please God. So I would be careful with elevating, intellect. I'm not saying to be an idiot, but you know what I mean. This doesn't really have anything to do with what I'm going to talk about, but I just saw it and thought it was interesting. So this is from Smith Wigglesworth, who was, he's been dead for a while now, but one of the greatest men of God since like the Bible that I'm aware of. So he said this is a prophetic word from 1947. He said, when the new church phase is on the wane, there will be evidenced in the churches something that has not been seen before, a coming together of those with an emphasis on the word and those with an emphasis on the spirit. When the word and the spirit come together, there will be the biggest movement of the Holy Spirit that the nation and indeed the world has ever seen. It will mark the beginning of a revival that will eclipse anything that has been witnessed within these shores, even the Wesleyan and the Welsh revivals of former years. So what I believe that's actually what's starting to happen now. And here's the thing, is you have kind of two different camps that Christians fall into. You either have emphasis on the word and no spirit, or you have emphasis on the spirit and no word. And neither of those are right, because you have some fringe charismatics and Pentecostals that are all spirit and very little word. And then you have your mainstream denominational churches that are all word and no spirit, when you need both, because the spirit and the word will always agree. So you use the word, and then the spirit is literally part of the word, and you embrace them both. And then that's when you have, I think that is the highest form of Christianity. That is the ultimate way to live the Christian life, because you have both, which both were given to us. Both are useful. In fact, both are necessary to do the things that God would have us do while in the body, while on the earth. So I'm excited, because I think that is coming, that there will be, like, just how the charismatic movement broke out, and I think it was the 60s or 70s, which meant a lot of the denominational churches that were not full gospel spirit-filled churches embraced what the Pentecostals already had. And then you started to see that make its way into mainstream churches, and you had kind of that revival that came with it. I think now we're going to see kind of the same thing happen again, except it will be better, because there will be, hopefully, the people that are all spirit and not word are going to come around to embrace the word, and then be perfected, mature, grow up in Christ, and start to have an effective Christian life while we're all still here, because I do believe Jesus is coming very, very soon. Who knows what that means? I'm no date setter, but I think it's going to be soon. I'm going to get into something else in a minute, but first, I want you guys to watch these couple of videos because this is an example of people that at least have a position of influence one way or another that are using their platform. Here's the thing. If Christians aren't going to be bold, which unfortunately a lot of them are not, if they're not going to be bold, it's funny how God will raise up the people that aren't church leaders, maybe not even church goers in some cases, or haven't been, and he'll start using them to share the gospel and to use their position of influence to have an effect, because Christians have done such an awful job of being bold. Maybe they don't compromise on everything, but they're not bold. And myself, I've been, which I'm probably still guilty of that, but I at least definitely have been up to now in my life. But I want you to watch these couple videos. They're not very long. And this kid right here is none other than Travion Henderson, one of Ohio State's running backs, who has been nothing but very, very vocal about his faith. And I have a lot of respect for him.
I first want to thank my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. I'm so thankful, not just for this national championship, but I'm thankful for the lives that Jesus Christ saved and the lives that he transformed. I'm thankful for my brothers, the coaches, the families, and all the staff who is part of this championship team. I'm thankful that God kept us faithful and led us to praise him, not just for the wins, but through the losses as well. We serve a God who is not weak, but a God who is mighty, and that can do all. We serve a God who loved us so much that he sent his one and only son, Jesus Christ, to die for our sins, and who rose 3 days later, and that whoever believes in him should not perish but have everlasting life. I'm so thankful that when people called us weak and counted us out for following Jesus, God kept us focused on him, who reminded us that we are strong and that we can do all things through Christ who strengthens us. I'm so thankful for this victory, but true victory is in the Lord Jesus Christ. God bless you all, Buckeye Nation. Thank you.
Sorry about that. That's awesome. Let's watch one more. This is none other than Alex Jones, who of course has had a reputation of being a fringe, outright, just insane, extreme right-wing conspiracy theorist. However, say what you want about him, I don't really know of anything he said that didn't actually come out as truth later on. He just was ahead of the curve. But he is a different person now than he has been. So just listen to him. He's actually lost a bunch of weight. I think he quit drinking. He gave his life to the Lord. He got spirit-filled. I'm telling you, he is a different person.
Greatest trick was not convincing the world he didn't exist. That's a big trick, but it's not number one. Number one is trying to convince you that there's no God, which means there's no good in the world, and there is. And courage, and freedom, and innovation, and trailblazing, exploration, the maverick spirit of discovery is the sexiest thing in the universe that God gave us. Innovation, prosperity, will to build. I don't believe in it. I know it. God isn't number one to me. God is everything. Number one's too small.
He should be narrating books or cartoons or something. But I love that. There is an very evident change in that man, and it's been a pleasure to watch. So I want to throw this up here. This is from Frank Turek, who's arguably the best apologist there is. He says, what is the most common objection to Christianity that you encounter? I had to think about that for a minute. I would say, if you would have asked me this like a decade ago, I probably would have said just atheism. And the thing about atheists is I have never listened to an atheist that was just chill about being an atheist. They were just nonchalant about it. Every single time I've heard one talk, you can detect mockery in their voice about Christianity, about God. And so it's obvious to see, and I'm no psychologist or anything, but you can tell it's not that you don't believe in God. You are bitter towards him. You are angry with him about probably something terrible that happened to them or someone they care about. And they're mad because it seems unjust. And so instead of allowing God to help them, they just get mad at him. And it's easier for me to deal with it by just saying, God, it doesn't exist. So that's my experience with atheists. But I don't even know that I would say atheism is the number one reason, because people just can't be convinced. I can't see God, so how can I believe he's real? I don't even think that's it. I think it's more a spirit of rebellion is what keeps people from away from Christianity, because I've seen it. I see it mocked so much. And again, I read comments on stuff I see on social media, and I'm like, man, this person is like, again, not saying they're an atheist, just mocking Christianity. And there's just like, yeah, some bitterness, but rebellion. And if you read between the lines. So I think that is probably the first thing is rebellion. And also that people are obsessed with their lives of sin. And instead of it's easier for you to just say that the Christianity is not the truth. Whether you're debating whether or not God exists, you can say Christianity is not the truth. That whole thing is just a made up religion. Someone got pregnant out of wedlock and then they created this whole religion based off of it, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it's easier for you to take that position, because if you acknowledge the Bible is true, then that means you need to do something about your sin. And you don't want to, because no one wants to give up their sin. You have a guilty conscience, but in order to alleviate the pressure of that guilt, just tell yourself that that's not true. That's not the right way, that I don't need to do that. That way it's easier for you to live with your sin and not deal with it. So I think that's the number one thing. There's some rebellion in it and a refusal to repent. Anyway, I wanted to show you guys this because I found it very interesting. So this is how we know the Bible was written by God. So look at this, all of these overlapping arches. And I'm going to explain what that is by reading this. And I've seen this before. So these are all the cross references in the Bible, an extraordinary 63,000 links connecting its 66 books into one seamless story, written over an incredible 1,500 years by around 40 different authors from completely different geographic locations. The Bible's intricate themes and prophecies align with stunning accuracy. For example, the Old Testament contains over 300 prophecies about the Messiah, all fulfilled centuries later in the New Testament through the life of Jesus Christ. Scholars agree there is nothing else like it. No other book in history comes close to its harmony, consistency, or global impact, which is why it's the best-selling book of all time. So this is why, first of all, anyone that is going to be a denier, the Bible's not true, if you actually look into that, something like that, it absolutely is true. Also, what the disciples had to go through in order to keep their story intact, because there's been the whole, Jesus existed, but he didn't rise up from the dead. In order to run with that story, they would have, like Mel Gibson just said on the Joe Rogan podcast, they would have had to have been willing to die for something they knew wasn't true. No one does that. And that's just one thing. There are so many others, but also this is why I don't really understand why anyone that's Jewish would not believe Jesus was the Messiah. What are you clinging to when he fulfilled literally every prophecy from the Old Testament, which Jews believe in? What else do you want? There couldn't possibly be anyone else that could fulfill more than he did, because he fulfilled all of it. So I don't know why you would be clinging to the fact he's not the Messiah that you're waiting for. He already came and took care of everything. So what do you, I don't understand what is keeping them from embracing, the fact that Jesus is in fact the Messiah. This is the right way to go. Maybe there's something about them I don't understand. But that, just knowing that he fulfilled all those prophecies would be enough for me. But, maybe it's a religious spirit that's in the way. I get that that's, it affects a lot of different people, Christians included. Real quick, I want to talk about this super interesting thing. So again, this is what I was saying, how the more you study science, the more it just backs up the intelligent design, God being the author of creation, and the Bible being the lifeline basically for us. So look at this right here. So this cross-shaped molecule holds your entire body together. Now I'm going to read what this is and how it holds your body together. So it's the laminin molecule. So it's a large cross-shaped protein found in the extracellular matrix, primarily within basement membranes, composed of 3 polypeptide chains, alpha, beta, and gamma, that assemble together to form a complex structure with multiple binding sites for cell adhesion, playing a crucial role in cell migration, differentiation, and tissue development, especially acting as a structural scaffold for cells to adhere to and interact with each other. So this is obviously that first one we looked at. It wasn't a perfect cross, but this is like a diagram basically of what it is and what it looks like. So it is a cross-shaped molecule. But what I find interesting about this is it says that it holds your entire body together, like what we just read. So it's funny because there's a Bible verse that says exactly that. And let me find it for you. And I'm going to put it up on the screen. Here we are from Colossians. And he is before all things, and in him all things hold together. So I find it interesting. You have that verse there, and this is of course talking about Jesus. In him all things hold together. And then you have that cross-shaped molecule that literally holds us together, holds your body together. So is that a coincidence? Maybe that absolutely could be, but knowing, how intentional God is and how intricate everything is. And it's funny too, there's a guy by the name of Jonathan Cahn who is highly intelligent. He is like a Bible scholar, and he has a gift for taking the Bible and applying it to what's going on present day. And it's amazing. It is mind-blowing how many similarities there are between what happened and in the past, like present day Israel compared to America. Now, America is not mentioned in the Bible. I understand that. And I'm not making a case for us to be a subject of the Bible, but evidence of a certain people that God blessed, and then or a nation that God blessed, and then seeing what happened when they turned from him. And it's amazing the number of things that are like word for word down to the most minute details that are identical. So like I read one of his books just a few years ago, and I had to like put it down and keep looking things up like I did with that documentary, because I was like, I can't believe this happened, especially in my lifetime in America within the last few years, and I didn't even know about it. And sure enough, I look it up and it happened, and I'm like, that is just insane, because like so many things that God said in his word, and then we turn around and we do certain things, and then I can't even go into all the details. You'd have to read the books to understand what I'm talking about, but he knows the beginning from the end from the beginning. And so that's why his word never changes. It's the book, that Bible, the book is alive, and it applies to everything, and it's perfect, and it's unchanging, and yet remains true in every circumstance. It is mind blowing. It is such a, I don't even know what the word is for it. But again, the word, it says that Jesus is the word. So that's why it's almost beyond description, because it's a person, and it's the Son of God, and it's God himself, God in the flesh, in a person. So I find it's just it's fascinating is maybe the word for it, because the more you study, the more you read, the more you learn about our bodies, about humans, about the world, the universe, the world we live in, and everything. It all goes back to what God said in his word, and it cannot be proven to be false. It just can't. There was one other subject that I wanted to get to, but I'm at 2 hours right now, so I'm probably going to have to save it for next time. But before we go, I am going to play this video. So I think it was episode 12, when I talked about tongues, and we listened to Rick Renner, who explained things from the original language and from the culture at the time of the New Testament writing and stuff. We talked about how it's a spiritual thing. So it doesn't make sense to your carnal mind. So I wish this video that I'm going to play, I wish I had this video when I did that episode, but I didn't. I just ran across this like yesterday, and it's awesome. And again, this reinforces the power of speaking in tongues and how it is a spiritual thing. But again, we're involving science here that backs up what God's word says. So watch this with me.
But I want to ask you about praying in the Spirit or speaking in tongues. So we talk about laughter, we talk about exercise, but what are the benefits of praying in tongues? And I've heard you talk about this before, and I'm just fascinated with it. And for our audience today, I just want them to hear you talk about that, if that's okay.
Sure. So a study done at University of Pittsburgh by Eisenberg, looking at what happens when you pray in your heavenly language. And in this particular study, they looked at what the brain does on SPECT scan in terms of brain activity. And so when a person speaks verbally, or when they communicate non-verbally, or when they sing, or even when they pray in their native tongue, the frontal part of the brain lights up on this particular study. But when they pray in their heavenly language, the parietal lobes, so the sides of the brain, which are more the receptive areas, light up, and the frontal lobes light up less. So to translate that, it's like when the parietal lobes light up, you shouldn't be able to speak or make any sound at all, because those parts are receptive. They're not active in terms of phonation and sound or speech, but yet when people pray in tongues in their heavenly language, there's this beautiful sound, beautiful language that they are phonating out of their mouths, and yet it's not them. So they're literally...
This is what I was talking about and that's why tongues doesn't make sense if you try to break it down like any naturally occurring language that we speak, is because it is a spiritual thing, and it bypasses your mind, because you are a spirit. God is a spirit, and you start to talk spirit to spirit in a spiritual language. So your mind, your flesh is not involved there, which is why the science backs this up, that I'm not using anything I know in my head to speak. And that's why whenever I first got baptized in the Holy Spirit, I didn't know how to speak in tongues, because I was waiting for words to come to my mind that I then speak out of my mouth, because that's how we talk in the languages that we know. But it doesn't work that way. It comes from your spirit, and then you let it flow out of your mouth, and it just bypasses the knowledge that's in your head. So it's awesome, because this is something I knew to be a fact, because I do it, and I know what the Bible says about tongues, but I did not know that this could be explained scientifically through this study that he said they did. So again, the more you study science, the more it does in fact confirm spiritual things that the Bible talks about. And that's why even the more we learn as humans is only going to point more to God rather than away from God, which some people will try to say, but it doesn't.
Receptive. So they are allowing the Holy Spirit to take over, and that's what you're hearing. And so the studies, kind of conclude that. And so to me, that makes perfect sense, because you're literally allowing the Holy Spirit to minister to or to take over your body, and your processor being your brain. And the result of that is not only all the wonderful spiritual benefits, but the natural benefits. And as evidenced by being able to speak and make sound when scientifically you shouldn't.
That is amazing. That's a miracle. So this is, I'll say it in layman's terms, what I hear. There's like something that disconnects in your mind where you should be functioning with a logical process or something that allows you to speak. You disconnect from that, and still there's an utterance coming, and your mind's disconnected from it, and yet there's a supernatural flow happening. That's kind of how I heard you say that.
100%.
Wow.
And you're not using the circuitry that your brain is supposed to use to be able to speak or.
So that's amazing. that's an awesome way of looking at it that I didn't know existed. I understood what happened, again, when I pray in the spirit, I can be doing, that's the thing, is you can be doing a bunch of other things and not focusing on what you're saying because you don't actually know. It's the Holy Spirit who intercedes for you, is what the Bible says. And then you yield to him and allow that to come out of your mouth. You just start talking, which is why your mind can even be in a million different places. But it's funny how when you talked about the receptors, because you're receiving something from the Holy Spirit while you're doing this. And that's why sometimes ideas will then come from your spirit then into your head. And then you think, oh, well, I never thought about doing that. It'll give you ideas, things you need to do, or maybe someone or something you need to pray about. And then I can pray in my native language because it came to me by spending time praying in the spirit. And then I received something that I didn't know in my flesh. So again, that I'm not even going to get back into the subject on the number of benefits that the Bible tells us there are, but I just found that interesting and wanted to share. One last thing, this special panda had a birthday yesterday. He is 10 years old. Look at that pretty face. Happy birthday. I am so fortunate to still have him because a lot of St. Bernards, any giant breed for that matter, don't make it that long. So I'm so thankful he's still around. He's doing great. He did get kind of fat. He's really squishy, very lazy. He doesn't get out of bed that much, rarely plays, but happy birthday to my big boy. Last thing here, ways to follow and contact. I keep meaning to add Rumble. I have not added that to this yet, but I am on Rumble. And after I am done here, I'm going to place this video on Rumble. That way, if YouTube kicks me off again, I know I'll be safe on Rumble. Last thing here, ways to donate if you would like to. Again, for sponsors, if you have a business or something and you'd like to be a sponsor, send me a message. We'll talk about it and go from there. That's all I have for today. I will see you guys in episode 15. Have a great night and God bless you.